Hi guys, welcome to Coding Ambitious. And in this video, we will be learning about using SQLDelight in Compose Multiplatform, right? So this is a single app. We are displaying the products from the network only. So what about if we want to add the offline support here, right? Suppose if internet is not available there and we want to show records. So for that, we need to save the records somewhere in the app, right? So for that we will be using the SQLDelight here, right? So we can use Realm as well, but here we will be using the SQLDelight, and maybe in some other videos I will be covering the Realm as well, right? As a local DB. So how to add the offline support? So this is the all about that, right? So let's continue with that. So first of all, you can check out its documentation. So let's check that, and few steps are there. So let's start integrating it, right? One thing why we should use the SQLDelight. So basically SQLDelight generates the type safe Kotlin APIs from your SQL statement. So it's directly basically depends upon, like, we are writing the SQL statements. From that it generates the type safe API, so we don't need to worry about the types as well, right? So directly it generates the type of the record from the table, like table means where we are writing the statement. From that it's generating the type directly, right? So let's continue with that. Let's add this. So step 1, and then let's go to second part. So basically after this we need to define the SQLDelight block as well. So it will specify some configurations there. You can specify it here. Step 2. So yeah, SQLDelight step 2. Okay, but it will be picking up it once we will be syncing it, right? Let's sync it. So syncing is done, and here you can see now it's showing it. Databases we can specify. We need to create the database, name of the database, and this is the package. So let's check out the package of our app, and we can accordingly specify that. We can keep that this similar, right? Okay, and yeah, so now let's move on to the another part. So now suppose this block we have added there, but now this is just for the configuration part. Now the main step comes here. So we need to create the SQLDelight directory, right? So that will be inside the, where we have inside the common main we have this Kotlin, right? So at the same level where we have this Kotlin package here, right? So at the same level we need to add SQLDelight directory. Okay, and now let's add one package, or maybe we can directly copy it and add it. Yeah, that's it. And so now we need to create a SQLDelight file. So for this you can install the SQLDelight plugin, then you will be showing this suggestion, but we can directly create simple class file as well. So just create a simple file, name it app.database database.sq type file you need to create, right? So yeah, we can create it. Now let's sync it, and we'll be moving to the next step then. So we'll be writing all the queries here, right? Suppose we are fetching the product, so we'll be creating the query for product table, right? We'll be doing that in a bit. Okay, so before that let's start adding the drivers. So basically what happens, so suppose we have written here the queries, right? Just for example, suppose we have written the queries here, or you can say statements. So what will happen is, so after the project is compiled, so the generated Kotlin code will be stored in the shared build generated folder. Actually, it means this one is we have this not shared, but this one in this project structure it is not shared. So build and generated here SQLDelight, you can see everything will be generated here, right? So what happens is from these statements, so we can write statements. Actually we can name it statement, that is the proper word. So we'll be writing the statements here like create, insert, update, delete, right? And from those SQLDelight will generate a database class, right? So and then database class will be generated, and then what we need to do is, so if we want to use that generated database in your code, we need to add the driver dependency basically. So what will happen, we will write statements here, then from those statements database will be generated, and then that database will be used via drivers, right? For each platform we need to create drivers. So now we'll be moving to the next step. So let's add the driver dependencies. We'll be writing the statements then later on. Okay, so if you go here, defining the schema, constructing driver instance, yeah, you can see it here. So let's basically first of all we need to create it inside the common main. Yeah, this one. So inside common main, let's add a directory here, database, and then let's add one new file. So let's name it simply DRA driver factory. Okay, and yeah, so this is the expect class, and now we need to provide the implementation for this, because so drivers will be different for each platform, right? That's why we created the expect class, and we will be providing the actual implementations for them, right? So that should be at the same package level. So inside the Kotlin we have database directory, the same thing we need to create. If we just copy it inside the other source sets, right? You can see. So that was inside where, yeah, inside this Kotlin database. Okay, and yeah, so that is Kotlin. Inside Kotlin we have database, right? Here it will be going. Yeah, so this one is there, and here what we need to do is we can make it actual and actual. So one thing forward, so this function will be suspend, actually suspend type. I'll be explaining that why it is so. So actual suspend, so then we will be adding the okay, I missed one part actually. We need to add, yeah, these drivers as well. I missed that part, so you should move to this part then, and then we should create the drivers. So let's add first of all these dependencies for drivers. So if you go to the Android main, yeah, this one is for Android, this one is for iOS. Okay, and then this one is for desktop main. Okay, okay, so now, yeah, so for one it's remaining. So let's go to the web. For web, let's go to the SQLDelight JS. For that we need to add this one extra step as well. We can make it generate async. So it will be basically providing the asynchronous implementations, right? It means it will not be blocking ones, right? So then let's move on to the, yeah, creating the drivers for this. Yeah, this one, Let's add this to the JS main actually. That we have not added yet. Oops, this one is wrong. This one is for the driver class. I was a little bit confused. So we need to add these dependencies. Let's add them. This one, and then we need to add these two as well for the SQLJS web worker, right? So yeah, these dependencies we need to add. So yeah, let's first sync them. Now those dependencies are done. Now let's start creating the drivers. So let's provide the implementation for them. So inside the Android side, we can just return Android SQLDelight drivers, and inside this app database it should show okay, what is the name of the database we have specified? Let's check that. Let's make it app database. Let's now clean it because it has already generated that for the database name, but we want to rename it as like app database. It will be easier. App database dot schema dot synchronous. So it will be automatically, it requires basically, if you go here, so what it will be doing is it will be creating the DB there, right? So this implementation will be there. Okay, SQL schema, it will be generating the SQL schema, because if you want to because this requires synchronous implementation of schema, so that's where it will be providing the synchronous function, will be providing the synchronous definition, because this will not be synchronous, this will be synchronous, right? If you see, this is async value, but now it will be making the synchronous value, right? And then we can specify the app.db, app.db maybe the name, okay? And why it's showing this? Okay, one parameter I think we are missing. It requires context as well, that we will be accepting from the document. Okay, now it's fine. And similarly, let's add it inside iOS main. So where it was, inside this database directory, and then let's add driver factory, and then this one, and let's remove this is not required here, and here we will be returning the native SQLDelight driver, right? And it does not require context. Okay, so this is it. And now let's Now let's add it for the desktop. It was inside the Kotlin. Okay, and here we will be returning the JDBC SQLite driver and what parameters it requires. It does not require this. It requires URL properties. So these are few things which we need to set up. So it will be setting up the JDBC SQLite, right? So basically the URL for SQLite. If you have worked with the Java, so you have connected the database connectivity inside the Java, so you may be knowing about this JDBC SQLite drivers. Okay, and so actually we need to do one more thing here. App database dot schema dot await create driver. Return driver. It will be creating the schema here, right? Await create. It is await creates suspend function. That's why we have made it suspend, right? So now let's add this similar thing inside the JS as well. So here what we need to do is, if you see here, we were using that, yeah, this point. So let's create this and okay, and then add this schema. This will be the, so this part we are doing separately for JS and desktop, but for iOS it was already being passed here directly, right? So that was some change in implementation, the way of implementation, right? So now we have specified the drivers. Now let's move on to the next part. So now we will be creating the one DB helper class basically, right? So inside, so why do we need this DB helper basically? So I'll be explaining that in a bit. So it will be accepting the driver factory here, and then we can create one DB variable here, app database, and let's make it null initially. Then we can use mutex here. I will be explaining that. So mutex is basically if you have worked with the multi-threading, like synchronization, suppose multiple threads trying to access some values at the same time, so we need to provide some kind of synchronization. So for that we will be using the mutex. So it will providing the thread safety so that no two threads will be accessing the values at the same time, right? In Kotlin we use this way. So now, so here what we'll be doing is, I'll be explaining this thing to you. First of all, let's create one method here, suspend func. It will be the create db, right? And accepting the driver factory and returning the app database. Okay, this method will be creating the database, right? So here we will be checking the sorry, we will be returning the app database. So driver is equal to driver factory dot create driver, right? So we'll be returning this, and then so because this function is suspend, so that's why this function is also suspend. And why do we need this helper class is basically what happens is, so we initialization process is now becoming suspend, right? So suppose at this some initial time when we will be fetching from the API, we need to check if database has some records at that time. So we will be needing this database class, right? So if suppose anyhow it's not initialized at that time because it is asynchronous suspend, right? So if you know how asynchronous execution, so it may suspend the code. So by the time we will be needing that, suppose it might not be initialized, so that's why we need this db helper class basically, right? So here we'll be creating the any result of any type, one generic function. So we'll be creating a simple method here like with database, and that will be returning the result generic parameter, right? It can be anything. If we are returning some records, we can, it will be the list of those records, otherwise it can be unit as well, right? So we can define it directly with mutex. Oops. Mutex dot with log. Yeah. Okay, cool. So now so this check I will explaining it now, it will become more clear to you. If db is equal to null, because create db, then we'll be creating the db here and passing the driver factory. We can make it private as well. Okay, and then we will be returning the block. Okay, oops, I forgot to add. So there will be a block here as well. So that block basically a suspend function actually, right? That will be accepting the app database parameter and returning the result, right? So that's why when we will be calling that block here, so we will be returning the value directly which is being returned by this block, right? And let's make it where. So I'll be explaining this. Suppose so this process is asynchronous. Asynchronous means it means we will not be waiting for this result, right? So it's a suspend function actually. It will not be blocking. So if you know about asynchronous functions, so then you might be getting this idea why I'm doing this. Suppose at the first time we'll need to use this db, and at that time suppose it is uh, not initialized, right? So then there is a problem, it will be null, so you will not be able to access it. So that's why we are making this suspend function, so that we can access it in a suspend way, right? So asynchronous way. So that's why we have used this, so that every time we will be using some queries or doing anything with the database, we will be using this function with database. It will be checking if it is null, that it will be creating db only if it is null. If it's not null, it will not be creating it again, right? It will be just directly returning the response of our queries, which will be this block, right? I'll be explaining this while I will be using this, right? Because otherwise while creating the database you might face some problems there, because this is suspend functions. You can try out and you will understand about that. If you directly try to create this database initially, then at some point you will get some issues with the like implementation. You will get confused how to implement those things, because it will be a synchronous function, so it might get null at the initial time, so you might not be getting the desired results. So that's why we have created this helper uh, method there. Okay, so now this is done, and now let's move to the sorry And now let's move to the another class, so that is the database class. But before that, I will be moving back to the app database.sq class, right? So here we will be writing the queries now. Suppose create table. Suppose name of the table is product. And its fields are integers, primary key, not null. And then next field will be title, and it will be the text type. So for the string types we'll be using the text, right? So what I have written here, it will be the integer. It will be like this. Okay, so text, and we want it not null. And then suppose we have image field, it will be the URL. And then we have price field, so that will be the double. For double we use the real here, real type. Okay, and so then which fields are remaining? ID, integer, price, and then let's say category, not null, and then the description, text not null, right? Okay, yeah, it was the issue with this last comma. So it can be just text, and it can also be text. Okay, so now let's create the insert product method. So it will be creating the insert product method in the database class. I will be showing you while we will be using it. So that's why it's called safe type safe API. So it's generate the methods with these labels, right? Insert into product. Okay, P is capital. Okay, insert into product, ID, title, image, ID, title, image, price, then category, then description, right? And values, inside values it will be accepting these from the parameters. How many are there? 5. Okay, cool. And let's terminate this statement. Okay, so with this label, the same name, it will be creating one method there in the database, right? Suppose similarly we can write this method as well. Remove all products. Okay, delete from product. So these are just simple SQL queries. If you know MySQL or SQL, so then it will be easier to you understand. Select all products. Okay, so select all products. So then select product. What it will be, we will be fetching the all fields of the product, all fields. So this product table, all fields for star, right? So we are specifying here we need to fetch all field means star here from the product table. Okay, right? And then we can make it from product. Okay, cool. So these queries are now done. So while I'll be rebuilding it, I will be showing you like these methods are already there. It has generated those methods, right? So I'll be showing you that. Let's sync it. And now let's move on to the next part where we'll be creating the database class. Okay. Okay. And after database class, we will be adding the few data sources as well. I'll be explaining that point to you. So let's create the database class now. Okay. So let's go here, database. Let's create one class, database. Okay. And inside this database class, what will be need is it will be accepting the db helper. Okay. And another one can be, we can directly even we can pass the scope as well there as a constructor. This it's a good approach actually. We should pass scope or dispatchers maybe as a constructor parameters. It makes testing easy for them. So we can create, just let me write single queries here, you will understand it better. Scope dot launch and then with database db helper dot with database. So now it will be providing the database to us and we will be using that database, because now we don't need to worry about if database is initialized or not or anything, because this method will be taking care of all those things here, right? And whatever we will be writing inside this method here we will be writing and returning anything, so that will be eventually returned from this block, right? And that we can return if you, in case if you want to return some values. I will be coming to that, like while we will be fetching the list and returning that. So I'll be explaining this thing at that time, it will become more clear, right? So inside this clear, so what we need to do is database dot okay, let's make it I have database queries. So this field is there, we need to use that actually. Database dot app database dot queries dot, so you can see now these are the methods with those labels, right? If you see remove all products, and you can see the implementation of these are just simple queries we have written already there. Similarly, it's the insert product, this is also the label there, and this is also label there, right? So these methods we have written in the labels in the app database.sq. These it has created all the implementations for them, right? So this is for it. And now let's create some other function that will be the suspend function. Get all products. Okay. And here also what we'll be doing is var items or of list of product. Okay, cool. And now what we'll be doing is result. So we will be using the async here so that we can await its result, right? Because we need to fetch its result and then we need to return that result dot await. So whatever we will be returning from here, that it will be returning from this method as well, right? Let's make its return type as well, because we'll be returning all the records from the database, right? So now let's assign those variable, like assigning the items variable as whatever we will be fetching from the database dot app database queries dot. What we need to do is select all products, right? So and now select all products, it requires this mapping, right? So for that we can actually what will happen is we are returning the list of product, right? So this method, so what it's doing is query of product, right? And this product is, if you see inside the SQLDelight generated file, right? So we need to map these files. So this is the product class from the DB, and but we need to return results in this our data class serialization form, right? So that mapping we will be doing here. For that we can create one method here actually. So let's create one method here, map product selecting. So I will be selecting from the DB, let's map it. So it will be requiring all the parameters. If you see here these parameters, this method it will be requiring in the same order, right? Okay, we can add them, and then what it's doing is returning the from the DB product, it will be returning our product class, right? So let's return product and id equal to id dot to int, because it will be returning as long, but inside this we will be using the int. We can make it long as well if required, then we will not be needed this conversion price, and then the category, and then the description, and then the title, and then image. I guess image is also there. So this is for the mapping, and we can pass directly reference of this method here. If we see what it's showing is okay, let's check it. Okay, so this will be returning the query, right? Query of type, like query of product, but now we need to await as list, so it will be returning the list from there, like, right? We need to use this method. Okay, so execute as list is also there, but that is not the asynchronous, right? We can use await as list, that is synchronous, right? You can see suspend function, and if I do execute as list, it is not suspend function, it may block the thread, okay, while fetching. So now return let's items. Okay, cool. So now this is also done, and now let's add one more method there. That will be the, we need to create products as well, right? From the response of the API. So in this we will be getting the items list of product, and it will be just saving in the DB. We don't need this, and thus here what we need is, we don't need to return anything. So here what we'll be doing is we'll be inserting the product. So items dot for each we will be inserting the product, and again for that actually we need insert product first, then we will be creating the create products. So it will be just accepting the product type here, and from that product we will be we will be inserting the product, and that again insert product, that method we created there, and inside that method we can pass all the parameters here, item dot id dot toString. Okay, and then title, it's not toString, it's long actually. Inside this type is long, right? So yeah, and then title, and then image, okay, and then the price, and it will be the price dot to double, okay. Okay, price is double and here double, so it's nullable, so we can just provide default value there, okay. Then the category, it will be the item dot category, then the description, so this is for the insert, this is done. Now we'll be calling this for all the items here by passing the item here, okay, cool. So these methods are now done. Now let's creating the two data sources, because earlier we were fetching the records directly from the network, but now in the repository we will be using the two data sources. For network part we will be using the remote data source. For local database queries we will be using the local data source, right? Let's add those data sources. Data source, and here let's add two classes, local data source, and let's give it name for products local data source, and it will be using the database, okay. And so what it will be doing, we will be doing here, so get all products, so we'll be returning the return database dot get all products, fine. It will be of type product, okay, cool. And we can make it private as well, and then we can clear db as well, so it will not be returning anything. We can just clear database, okay. It will be removing all the products, okay. And then let's create save products, okay. So it will be accepting the list of products, and then it will be creating the products from the list and saving inside the, okay. And let's just log as well here, so that it will be easier to understand for us. Okay, so this is done now, and local data source is also done. Similarly, we can create the remote data source. Okay, so this will be accepting the HTTP client. It will be fetching the records from the network only, right? That's why we are using the HTTP client. Same methods will be there, and that method we can move there. So we can make it here. Okay, cool. And this one we don't need, this one also we don't need, right? From network we are only fetching the products, right? Now next part is we have created these dependencies, so we need to use them here. And also products local data source and remote data source. Okay, so now we need to make changes at dependencies as well, so because now we are using the dependency section as well there. And if you want to if you want to know about how we did this dependency injection, you can check out my another videos on YouTube. So those are the like dependency injection in sorry. So if you want to check out how I added these dependencies there, you can check out my another video. So that is dependency injection in Compose Multiplatform. So you can check out that video, you will understand how we did this dependency injection. So now let's create another module actually. Similar to this network module, we can add the cache module there. Okay, and inside this cache module, what we need to provide is, so we will be providing the so we will be providing here the DB helper, and the database. And inside database we have two dependencies. If you see DB helper and coroutine scope, and then that coroutine scope we can just create that one. Okay, so we can create that here itself actually. So it will be coroutine context type, and here we will be returning this coroutine scope, this one, and it will again expecting the one parameter, that is I written it wrong actually. So this will be the coroutine context, and here we will be returning the dispatchers. Okay, and then this coroutine context is required by this as parameter, right? So here we don't need this, it will be getting this coroutine context like this dispatcher dot default, right, in this scope. So that this will be the scope which is required here. Okay, cool. Now these dependencies are done there. Now let's add these before network module, and let's add those dependencies here as well. Update, we can update these parameters, and similar to these we can add local data source. It will be getting requiring one dependency database that we have already defined here, and similar to this remote data source. This is done. Now dependencies are also done, and home repository we need to make few changes here basically. So now what change we need to make here is, so suppose inside this get products API, first of all let's accept this parameter here, boolean. Let's give the default value false. So because there will be two cases, we will be fetching from the network. Either records are not in the local DB or we are force reloading, right? So in those two cases we will be doing this, right? So now get products, this method will be called, it again requires this parameter. Okay, so we'll be making that here, passing this parameter there, right? And inside this what will we need to do is, so here first of all we will be checking the cached item, so that will be from the local data source, right? Get all products, right? So if now we'll be returning actually if cached items dot is not empty, right? It is not empty and not force reload as well, right? Suppose if this is not empty, we have records in the cache items and we are not loading force loading, right? Force loading means we will be getting the records from the network, but we are not doing that, so we need to make sure these two parameters, these records are not empty, we have something in DB and we are not force reloading. In these cases we need to return cached items, else products local data source, sorry, remote data source dot get all products dot, also we can specify clear DB as well here. Okay, and we can save products as well. Okay, after getting these from remote data source, like from the API, we'll be saving in the DB as well, right? If they are, suppose this will be happening in two cases, either we are forcefully reloading, then also it will be fetching from the network and clearing the DB and saving in the DB, right? And suppose this item is empty, suppose we are fetching first time, then also it will be triggering, right? Okay, so now let's make it private, and this method we are already using here. So yeah, now it's done actually. Let's try to run it and we will be checking in the logs if everything working or not. So we will be adding some logs here as well. Just for understanding, let's make it like this. Okay, and let's make it cache, right? So that we'll be understanding from where we are getting the records. Okay, cool. So if we see and if you go and see in the logs, so some dependency issue might be there. Let's check it. Database.driver factory. Okay, so we need to make few changes. We need to provide the database factory as well, so that we will be doing the app specific code. So for this we will be doing inside this main activity, okay, single. So this driver factory is required by, actually, if you will see in the cache module. So if you see this db helper, it requires driver factory. So we have not specified that in the coin modules anywhere, right? So because that requires, for Android it requires context, so that is the expect class, and we'll be providing the actual implementation. So we'll be returning it from here, driver factory. So it will be automatically picking up the implementations from the specific platforms automatically, right? And then similarly we can add it inside the iOS as well, right? Okay, let's specify it there as well. It will not require this, it will be using the implementation for iOS. And similarly we will be adding them to the another, like for JS, and then for JVM, right? Now let's try to run it. If you see from network, right, first time it's fetching from the network. Let's try to rerun it. Yeah, first it was from network, now you can see it's from cache, right? Even if I clear logs, you will see these records are from cache, right? You can see from cache, from no network is there, right? So now it's fetching from the cache records. So if we will be passing the force refresh, so that things, those things we will be implementing according to our logic. When we need to upload, force reload, we can reload, then it will be fetching from the network and updating in the DB, right? So this is done now, guys. And now let's check it for other platforms. So in the iOS side as well. So if you see, we have some issue in the iOS side. Some binding issue is there. Yeah, I have experienced it before as well. So for that, what we need to do is we need to add one thing. Actually, let me show you. We need to specify this issue I was facing earlier as well. So you can check out this link as well, and posting in the description. So we need to add actually this linker flags, okay? From the Xcode. So we'll be doing here others, maybe linkers. Okay, linkers we might be getting somewhere. Yeah, here it is. So here we can add that, and now I think we should be able to run it. Yeah, if you see, we are able to run it now. From network, if you see from network, okay, cool. From data, from cache is not there, right? And let's rerun it second time. Yeah, it works. You can see from cache. Okay, cool. So now second time it's not fetching from the network, it's fetching from the. So even if you want to test it, like if you want to just confirm this thing, so let me explain this. So let's, in the Android app, I'll be showing you like turning off the internet, and then I'll be showing you still it will be able to fetch the record. So first of all, let's check. Yeah, from cache. So just in case internet connectivity is not there, I'll be explaining, covering that case as well. Yeah, you can see now there is no internet here, but still if you will be loading it, it will be picking up the record from the cache here. You can see, so this is picking up from the local cache, right? Yeah, so we can enable internet again. Okay, cool. So this is for iOS, oh sorry, Android, and I have showed to you for iOS as well. Now I'll be showing to you for desktop as well. Okay, let's stop all first. Yeah, for Xcode it was only this much role. Now we can close it. You can see for desktop as well it's working, but for this I think, let's try to rerun it. If it will be picking up from the cache. Actually it will be every time a fresh install, so here we will not be able to see that effect. Yeah, you can see it will be every time from network, because we are not able to refresh it, right? So similarly it will be on the web. So yeah, it will be working on the web as well, so saving the records in the DB. Okay, so guys, this is all about this. You can try to run it for web as well. So here we have implemented the SQLDelight here, right? So I hope you guys now have an idea about how we can use fetch the records from the network and save in the local DB using the SQLDelight. So this is all about this video. I will see you in the upcoming videos. So, and please, an humble request, if you are new to my YouTube channel, please subscribe, and if you are already existing subscriber, please like, share and comment. That will motivate me to create more videos related to this. So I'll be keep sharing my experience with you guys, and I hope you have found this video useful. I will see you in the upcoming video. Till then, bye bye, take care, have a great time, keep coding.